All right, here we go. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 84 of Lords of the Storm, the weekly Heroes of the Storm podcast for you, the true heroes of the storm. I am your fill-in host, TBK Zord, filling in for Gizmo Zord, who is about to get hurricaned on. That's
Yes,
right.
he is.
Yeah, lots of hurricane going on in Florida. So we're hoping he survives. If he's
Well,
not here next week, you'll know he didn't.
he claimed, at least when last we checked in with him, that he was going to try to weather the storm. It's like he's trying to lord over it or something,
Ha! Ha!
or
Or be a
be a
hero
hero.
of it.
Yeah, right. Oh, those aren't our jokes. That's our buddy Swiftzord in a chat that we have.
It's true.
So shout outs to him. But yeah, that was I felt it was worth mentioning.
Yes.
He's trying to be a hero. Don't be a hero, Greg.
Don't be a hero, Greg. Get in shelter. Everybody who's in Florida should probably seek shelter.
Yeah.
It looks pretty bad. But of course, joining me as always is my good buddy Multizord. You are not in a hurricane right now.
Not last I checked. No.
That's
Not
good.
last I checked. We're a little too far inland in Missouri, being like the center of the continent. So
It's really hard to get hurricanes here.
yeah, tornadoes, those we do get.
Oh,
But
yeah.
hurricanes, although, we do sometimes get those, those far-flung bands of the hurricane that affect the weather here. It can be
Get a
rainy.
little
And
extra, rain or whatever.
are we expecting any of that, have you heard? Or
Oh,
is
probably.
it just-
I mean, this is a huge storm, so I'm sure
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
get something or other. But enough about hurricanes, because let's dwell on happier things while our friend gets beaten down by the horrible weather. What have you been up to in gaming this week, Multi?
Okay, so I've been playing Legion and my other Blizzard games, of course, but in Legion specifically, I've been going back to trying to farm out that Ashes of Alar mount from Kael'thas, all the way back in the Burning Crusade raid that he was in.
Yep.
And I used to do this before, like before I quit and everything. It's never dropped for me. And usually when I do these little runs, I just have music on, or I'm watching something on my other screen, or trying to multitask it, because it's pretty brainless to just walk in there, especially as a AFLOG. You just dot stuff up, watch it die, and then grab your loot.
Yeah.
But the other day I had it on with the actual volume, and I was just, I don't know, maybe I was too lazy to pull something up in my dual screen or something like that. But so I got in there, and I was amazed at how deadpan Kael'thas's voice lines were. Have you gone in and heard these, like, since then? Because it's kind of ridiculous.
The whole fight is ridiculous. Like,
Yes, it is.
even soloing it, being several expansions later, it still takes forever to do, because he has this massive monologue.
Well, and in the monologue, he's saying things like, "You have now proven yourself worthy of facing my master engineer, Telonicus." And it's just, I don't know, there's something about the voice lines that freak me out. I don't know. But yeah, so it feels good killing him, though, over and over again, because how long was he on top of the meta for Heroes of the Storm?
Oh, a
how
long
many
time.
long
And
months?
he will be back. He
Oh, yeah.
will be back. It's
Any
inevitable
tiny
that
tweak.
Kael'thas will return.
He's like a phoenix. Every time he dies, he comes back. So
No, he'll be back, I'm sure, in all his glory. Well, I've been getting a little Legion in myself, but I've also been doing quite a bit of Heroes lately. I played, actually, I played a lot of Zarya, because she was, at least for a day and a half, overwhelmingly broken. Just
Oh, yeah.
super horribly broken. And it's funny, we talked about it on the last show, that it was kind of unprecedented that they did a buff for Zarya kind of in the middle of everything. And so then, even more unprecedented, they do a nerf a day after they did the unprecedented buff to her,
right.
because she was so broken. And so I feel like she's probably not quite where she needs to be. She's still got a fairly high win rate. We're going to talk about her a little later in the episode, since she is our hero of the week, and a few ways of how to play around her. She feels a lot better now than she did.
yeah.
She's much closer, I feel, to balanced than either of her previous incarnations. and I don't feel like super scared anymore when I go up against her, which is nice.
No.
So
And at the same time, I don't feel super scared playing as her anymore because at the first, that's what my impression was for sure, that she just wasn't strong enough. But yeah, she's in a better spot now. We'll talk about it more when we get there. But
yeah, she kind of hit like a wet noodle.
Yeah, at first.
Before,
right?
yeah, it was just like, okay, you're at full energy, and you're kind of tickling me, but it's not really a big deal because you're not at full energy for very long at all.
Right.
But yeah, no, she's been a lot of fun. Got to write a little article about her for one of the esports publications, so that was a lot of fun.
That's right. Yeah.
Doing impressions, like initial impressions and stuff for her. I played some more Team League, just about done with my Team League placement, and that's been actually probably some of the most fun I've had in quite a while. Like Team League, they need to figure out something around Team League to make Team League like tons of fun. Because I really just feel like that's the place to be. And if they just need to make it somehow more accessible, it'd be really good. Oh, yes, I did play New Chen quite a bit, too. New Chen is very strong. And New Chen is a ton of fun as well. So I've been having a ton of fun with him. I think I'm going to spend a lot more time with him.
Yeah.
His new talents and some of the reworks they did have made him feel a lot better. And he's got a few good talent variety choices as well.
I haven't had the chance to mess with him. Does he feel as strong as he used to in like the early closed beta days?
Oh, he feels stronger. Like
or the alpha days?
He's incredibly strong. It's like tanky Illidan almost.
Okay.
He's very sticky. His weakness is still like hard CC. Like if you're up against a team with a lot of CC, you can deal with him fairly easily. But up against a team that doesn't have a way to deal with him or not, much in the way of hard CC, he becomes godlike. It's incredible.
Because he's always had some of those features. He's always been sticky and really good at gap closing, getting away, and that sort of thing. But and yeah, the stunning him while he's trying to drink has always been a problem for him.
And that's the biggest thing, right? Is stunning him out of his drinking, stunning him out of letting him build up that shield.
Right.
So yeah, that's nice. All right, well, let's hop into the show then. Store sales this week. We have Tassadar, Crypt King Tassadar, and Eagle Eye Tyrande, which is like the superhero-y ish Tyrande. Looks pretty cool, actually. I haven't picked it up yet, but I might do that. Also, for those of you who did not get the Machines of War bundle, the Butcherless skin and the bundle for it are actually available in the shop now. So if you want that crazy, creepy Zerg Butcher skin, now's the time to do it.
It's kind of like our first Halloween skin. Yeah. Sort of. It's scary. It really is scary.
It does. So just to sidetrack for a second, we do know Halloween is coming up, and we do know that there will probably be new Halloween skins. What are your guesses for Halloween skins?
I actually just recorded the episode of the Cavalry right before this, and we were having a similar conversation over there. I want both games to flip-flop in the sense that I want there to be a Stitches skin where he's dressed up as Roadhog from Overwatch, and I want an Overwatch skin in which he's dressed up as Stitches, because they're both the same kind of fat, if you will, use that term, hook grabbing guys, and I don't know. I would like that, so I want that crossover. But past that, I don't know. What do you think?
Whatever we do, no more creepy clown skins. I'm over that.
Too much for you?
With it. Nope. Who would be? I feel like. See, there's already a Headless Horseman boss in the game,
right?
And so you can't have
and they have his mount as well.
Yeah, so you can't have like a Headless Horseman skin. Leoric, you already got the skeleton thing going on. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it much. They've got some really good like vampire bat type thing going on. You could easily get like a Count Kael'thas skin.
Oh yeah, I could see that
of some sort going on.
I'd like to see maybe a ghostly version of someone. That would be kind of cool. I don't know who off the top of my head, but
Yeah. Suffice it to say, I mean, they usually always come out with a few skins around Halloween, so I'm sure we're going to get a few Halloween-themed skins to add to our collection. And
are you guessing next week? Or because, I mean, any further than that, we're getting kind of close to Halloween. I mean, it's already October.
Yeah, I would guess probably because we know, and we're about to jump into it, but we know there's a patch coming out the week of the 17th. So,
Okay.
that's what I'm going to guess is the week of the 17th. We might get some Halloween skins launched. But before we talk about that stuff, what do we have in our free hero rotation this week?
Oh, let's see. We've got Raynor, Muradin, Brightwing, who just Brightwing's regular skin is the scariest one in the game. Zagara, Sonya, Tyrael, Azmodan at account level 5, Tyrande at account level 7, Gul'dan at 12, and Illidan at 15. So that's correct. If you are not level 15, you are not prepared to play Illidan. That's a fact.
Yeah,
And Tyrande is a new skin in Hearthstone as well.
yep,
The priest class.
True. That is
So-
true. The whole new Twitch Prime thing, because
Yeah, that's
Amazon acquired Twitch a little while ago, and just at TwitchCon this past weekend, they announced that they are doing this new Twitch Prime thing. So if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can link your Twitch account and get one free subscription per month that you can put towards your favorite streamer, and they'll get paid exactly as if you had actually subscribed to them.
Exactly.
So that's
so
actually
choose wisely.
really cool. Yeah, it's really cool
Yeah.
they did stuff like that.
For sure. Oh, and by the way, Tyrande and Malfurion do definitely have their own little interaction when you match them up against each other. That happened to me the other day, and it really is like, "Hello, my love," and it's
Is it
as cheesy
sappy-
as it was
I
in
was gonna
Legion.
say, is it as sappy as it is in Legion? Because it's
No doubt.
it's really putting on the sappiness in Legion. It's rough.
They lay it on thick. That's
yeah,
all.
they
Good.
lay it on thick. So in our news, big news, and unfortunately, it's happening tomorrow morning after we record this, of course. But Samwise, one of the senior artists at Blizzard and art director for Heroes of the Storm, will be firing up his camera tomorrow morning on Facebook Live and drawing the next hero reveal in front of your very eyes.
And it's a speed drawing, correct?
I think it's a live drawing. So
It is live, yeah, for sure.
I mean, he might draw fast. I don't know. Maybe he draws fast. Maybe it's gonna be like a 4-hour thing where he's drawing and he's like shading things and he's erasing lines and getting everything perfect. I don't know how fast he's gonna draw it, but it's happening tomorrow morning, October 6th, 8 a.m. Pacific. So that would be 10 a.m. Central.
Right.
And it's going to be facebook.com/BlizzHeroes. So he's going to be
Yeah.
doing that live tomorrow. So the speculation has been rampant. There's Varian. There's Sumero. I think that's Sumaro. I'm probably
Who's that?
pronouncing that wrong. It's been a long time since I've played Warcraft 3. The Blade Master.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Are these guesses just based on stuff we've seen in the past in terms of like the models that have emerged and all that, or is it just guesswork?
There was a leak, like a 4chan leak or something, quite a while ago, and it's apparently been fairly accurate so far as to what has actually been getting released. So Blade
Yeah, I
Master,
came across that one.
Yeah, Blade Master is one of the big guesses. Varian is another big guess. I would really like to see some trolls,
Yeah,
honestly.
like Vol'jin or somebody.
Yeah, I think Vol'jin would be freaking sweet. And we don't have any
Vol'jin and-
trolls in the game
True.
yet.
Vol'jin and Varian have something in common now. Not to spoil anything about the Legion plot or the Broken Shore plot before it, but yeah, they met a similar fate. So I think they're both candidates,
Yeah. But
Anyway, I think whoever it is, it's got to be visually interesting enough to do an announcement in this way.
Yeah, it's
I
a very
feel
unique
like
way to do it.
exactly, and that's why like kind of the Blade Master, I'm not so sure because what I've seen of how he looked in Warcraft and some of these models that are going around, it's okay, but it's not like a masterpiece, I would say. And so I don't know. All I know for sure is that they've got to go with someone that's worth doing this art announcement for, I think.
Well, Samwise, just historically, has always been kind of a horde dude.
Oh, okay.
If you remember back, any of those who played WoW, the Azeroth Choppers, where they did the ridiculous thing where they got the guys from like the Orange County uh, biker shop. They built the bikes, a
Oh
Horde
yeah.
and an Alliance bike, and then the winning one, got given out for free or whatever in game. And he was the Horde guy
Hmm.
on that side. So that I'm leaning my vote toward Vol'jin. I might
Just
be
because of
wrong.
that.
It's probably going to be Varian, just because of that. But I'm leaning my vote toward Vol'jin. I think Vol'jin.
Spoiler alerts, by the way. The Horde motorcycle won, and Varian and Vol'jin died. So there you go.
Yep.
I
Horde
gave you
won.
the alert though. So
Yeah,
if you weren't aware of those things, you were warned.
It's true. Someone's mentioning Kel'Thuzad.
That'd be
Man,
cool.
I would love Kel'Thuzad.
I would too. And there's one that's interesting enough to make a really cool drawing,
Oh,
and it might kind of
Kel'Thuzad's
tie into like
awesome.
Halloween. Oh, that could be so cool.
Yeah, that would be absolutely perfect if it was Kel'Thuzad. He's
The
got a
real
very
KT.
yeah, the real KT. He's got a really he could have a really unique kit. He's a very iconic boss. I mean, I can't remember how many times I killed him in Naxxramas. Like it was a lot of times though.
Oh yeah.
Lots of times. But yeah, no, I think that's a great guess and I would be completely happy if that were actually true. All right, so moving on to a little bit of tournament talk. Not a whole lot this week. One of the big things, though, that happened is Astral Authority dropped their current heroes roster.
Hmm.
And everyone was like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's going to happen? Well, it turns out they dropped their current heroes roster so they could pick up another one. Astral Authority, last week, I believe, end of last week, picked up and sponsored Murloc Geniuses. So
Yeah.
for the first time ever, Murloc Geniuses has actually been sponsored by a team. And all I can say is congratulations, and I can't believe it took this long.
No, yeah, neither can I. But
Like-
seriously, congratulations.
Two-time North American champions. Like they won both regionals.
Right. I
in
think
the-
they earned
in the
it,
fall. Yeah,
maybe.
I think they earned a pickup. So that's super exciting, but sadly the Murloc Geniuses moniker is no more.
Can I just keep calling them that?
See,
Is
it's
that a
going to
thing?
take a while to convert over because the Astro Authority team was another team up until recently.
Right, exactly. So
And it's even funnier because Astro Authority, as the old team, were playing in the Nexus games, which are going on right now. And so that's a little awkward because since they were dropped and a new Astro Authority was picked up, so they are now going under the name Gust or Bust, which
Oh, yeah.
is kind of like the revitalization of another old team name that used to
yeah, I
be.
was about to say that's not the first time I've heard that one either. But
Yeah. So
yeah, that is kind of awkward. That's like
it is,
when
isn't it?
that's like when there's a breakup and then the person you were dating shows up to the next like school dance with someone else, and you're just standing there like, oh hey,
Yeah.
how have you been?
Good to
Yeah.
see you.
Glad to see you're doing
No,
so well.
No hard feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Speaking of the Nexus games, though, we're currently in week 2,
Mhm.
and right now on our top bracket, Astral Authority, the new Astral Authority, and Gale Force Esports, along with Imported Support and Denial, are on top. Whereas in the bottom bracket, it is Gust or Bust and Vox Nihili. So those games happen Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday nights. I believe they start at 6 Pacific time. And Jay Howe and Dunk Train have been casting them, or at least casted them last weekend. They're really a ton of fun to watch. And remember, this is like the crazy format. So brand new heroes can be picked right away. They don't have to have any waiting period. Brand new maps can be picked right away. They don't have to have any waiting period. So we can see Zarya this weekend. We can see Warhead Junction this weekend. We can see Alarak. We can see Braxis Holdout. And we have seen some of those already. So it's really fun to watch because you can kind of see the meta being shaped as the games go on. Like, because it's so completely ridiculous right now just because of all the balance stuff they've done, all the hero reworks they've done in the last few weeks. I mean, it's just been huge. So it's going to be really interesting to see what things end up getting settled on for BlizzCon, because that's only like 4 weeks away.
Right. And you made a good point there. I mean, this is a smaller deal. I mean, it's still a real tournament with a real prize pool and everything, but I mean, it matters though, right? Because BlizzCon's coming up. This is the sort of thing that will start to flesh out the meta for BlizzCon itself, I've got to think. So I know they're watching carefully.
Oh yeah.
The team's preparing for that.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And then also just kind of on the side for our on the European side of things, the Philadelphia 76ers acquired Apex and Dignitas.
Yeah.
So this is real sports meets esports.
It's been happening a little bit over time, but this is a pretty big one.
Yeah, and Dignitas is probably one of the biggest European esports clubs. Right.
Yeah, across several games as well. So, yeah, no, I'm cool with this. You know, I mean, it's just more legitimizing for esports in general, in my mind. And I mean, obviously, this is kind of a money decision. You know, the 76ers aren't just doing this because they like esports. They think that there's a reason to get behind just this genre of entertainment. So yeah, it's good to see. I'm excited for it.
No, I completely agree with you. It just further is legitimizing what esports is, and it just kind of shows us that it's gotten to the point where it's big enough now that these other big organizations can't ignore it anymore. And when that happens, like you said, that means there's money, because it's always about the money for these like big orgs type things and these buyouts at the end of the day. So it is cool. It's really cool that we're starting to see some real traction. And I know we talked an episode or two ago about the new Heroes format going into 2017, and there's a lot more money being thrown into that, a lot more options. Blizzard is really showing support for Heroes, so I'm really excited to see where that goes, to see some of these smaller orgs like Astral Authority grow, and as the prize pools get bigger, and as the Blizzard brings in the top 8 teams from each of these major regions to actually compensate them on a regular basis, kind of like a salary thing, and we get more regular games, and it turns into something more that this is an actual sport I watch every weekend, and not just these big chunks of time that just happen, you know, every 2 months or every 3 months or something like that.
Yeah, and the more people get into watching that sort of thing, the more actual sports teams will pick up more esports teams, the bigger all of this will get. I mean, we really, at this point, have no idea how huge this is going to get, and that's kind of exciting. I'm really, like, you know, at this point, we've been doing this show for a little while, and it seems like all the time, esports is getting me more and more excited as just like a genre of entertainment. So I'm ready to see what's next year for sure.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on from esports stuff, here's a surprising announcement that I don't think any of us saw coming. Heroes Brawl was announced. Holy crap.
It was. Out of nowhere.
It was completely out of nowhere. I expected this to be the center point announcement for BlizzCon. I honestly.
See, I didn't, and I'm going to throw this out there because Heroes Brawl is basically the, you know, what they've come up with from the old arena that they talked about at last year's BlizzCon. The closer and closer we got to BlizzCon, the more and more concerned I became with the fact that if we get to this year's BlizzCon, a whole year after the first one, when this was announced, and it's still the center point and there's nothing new and really interesting, it'd be kind of almost embarrassing on Blizzard's part, honestly. I mean, I hate to say that,
True, but there is a lot new.
And yeah, exactly. But my point
it's evolved quite a bit.
It has evolved quite a bit, and we'll get into that a little bit. But I think that they came out with this announcement now as opposed to on BlizzCon so that doesn't happen, so that they don't have to just rehash it all and just kind of give us the same announcement but a little different at BlizzCon. This, I think, allows them to get this out of the way, let us taste it a little bit before BlizzCon actually happens, and then hopefully at BlizzCon itself drop something even bigger on us. So.
Sure. And so let's just kind of, for those who haven't seen the announcement or haven't heard or seen a bunch of it, we'll kind of go over a little bit what it is. So Heroes Brawl is kind of an offshoot or an evolution of the Heroes Arena mode that they announced last year at BlizzCon. And what it's kind of turned into is, if you played Hearthstone before, they have a mode called Tavern Brawl. And what that is, it's a different, unique way to play the game on a weekly basis. And every week it shifts the type of mode it is. You may have start out with 10 mana, or you may get these random cards, or you might be facing off like PvE style co-op with a friend against some crazy, card thing or something like that.
Or you might be playing chess this week.
Yeah. There's that was a very interesting fight. But so what Heroes is doing is they're taking a page from that book and they're saying, okay, we're not just going to make this arena, we're going to make this a Tavern Brawl style, where every week, and I believe they talked about Thursdays, so this will be like a Thursday to Thursday thing, the brawl mode for the week will change to one of several things. And the cool thing about this system is that they can not only, have a bunch of different game modes that you can do, so you have this kind of new, interesting content on a weekly basis, they can add to this system constantly. So any new ideas that they have for a game mode that they want to try out, any ideas they have for new mechanics, it's like, I don't know if this works. Let's throw it in Brawl mode and see what people do with it.
That's honestly the coolest feature about this, and that's true for Hearthstone as well. They're constantly trying out new stuff in the brawls themselves, and then seeing what works, what doesn't, what people like, and then seeing if they can implement it in the regular game afterwards. Because, they get a ton of feedback from the community on all of this stuff, and I'm sure Heroes will as well. And so, yeah, it's that part in particular. I'm glad you brought that up because I like that quite a bit.
No, I love the idea of it being a testing ground. I think that's really cool. So what they have announced so far, first off, you're probably asking, TBK, when do we get to play this? Well, apparently the PTR will go live next week on Monday. Yeah. So that would be the calendar, the 10th. So PTR on the 10th, and then if all goes well, they're shooting to get it live the week of the 17th. So probably the 18th, because the 18th is a Tuesday, and that's usually the day they end up patching stuff. So that's pretty cool. Like, not only did we get this huge announcement, then they said, oh yeah, we're dropping this next week. So that's a huge deal. I kind of like it when they do stuff like that. It's like, all this cool new stuff, yeah, it's next week. Cool, go have fun. So what they've kind of shared with us so far is a few of the different type of modes. So there's going to be what they call, at least for right now in this initial set, arenas, mutators, and single lanes. So arenas are basically tiny versions of maps you already know, like some of the Diablo maps or the Sky Temple map or the Garden of Terror map. And what they are is they've shrunk these down and they have specific objectives. So like they give the example, this Punisher arena. You just have each team spawns a Punisher. And then killing the Punisher gives you a certain amount of points. Killing other enemy heroes gives you a certain amount of points. And then the first one team to 100 points wins.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you've got
just
that
killing.
going on. Yeah.
It's like team deathmatch, sort of.
Yeah, and then Sky Temple Arena, where you capture temples and use their energy beams to destroy the enemy core. There's only like one temple, and both teams are fighting over it. And I think the whole idea for these brawl-based games is to have very short, very action-packed play sessions. We're talking like, 5-10 minutes for a tavern brawl.
So is it the same model that they were talking about with arenas, in which you jump in at a certain level, you just pick your heroic and go for the most part?
That's what it seems like. That's what the assumption seems to be. You don't necessarily pick a ton of talents, or you get all like a set thing of talents, or no talents, and you pick your ultimate or something like that.
But we don't know for sure.
Start. No, I don't. I don't think we know exactly for sure, or if that's going to differ based on the type that you play. Like that might be. I would
imagine they could do that.
Yeah, that might be the case for like some of the arena ones, but there's going to be an ARAM mode. They talk about the single lane, so the Lost Cavern, that a full-on legit queuable ARAM mode for a week, where you go in and you do a 5v5 on the single lane map. But with the same rules, no porting back and healing up and that type of thing. So we know there will be legit type games. And then the other thing I didn't mention is mutators. And mutators are apparently going to be like standard battlegrounds, but with different rules of some sort. So the example they gave of this one is Towers of Doom, but 5 Sergeant Hammers versus 5 Sergeant Hammers.
Right. Yeah, and they even showed that in some of that latest video that just came out with just more details on all the sort of thing. You got to see all the hammers going about it. Not only that, they have the thrusters on, Hammer Z, at any point unless they're sieged up, which is kind of funny just to see them like dart around, that sort of thing. So should be fun.
Oh, should yeah. And they said apparently in a lot of the modes that they give you, they usually will give you a small selection of heroes to pick from. So you don't pick from like every hero. You get this little like, at least the last I looked at, like a roulette thing, which like, here's 3 different heroes that you can pick from.
Mm-hmm.
And you get.
And they emphasized it doesn't matter who you own. Like it's just you will get your choices and go with it. And that's true for Hearthstone as well. If you don't have the cards that are in the brawl, you still play. Yeah.
And the cool thing about that is it could push you out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that's good for newer players.
Yeah, and that'll actually help you to learn.
Yeah, you might actually get in there and think, I really like Sergeant Hammer, and then try on a real game and realize you can't just boost walk everywhere. But no, it's all good. It's all good.
And then apparently there is a chance, from what they said, there is some percentage of chance that both teams will be full-on mirror matches.
Oh, yeah.
So
just because you have a smaller pool to choose from, I can see that.
So in this community content shout out I've got later, Blizzard invited a few community people to the headquarters like this last weekend or Monday or something like that, and allowed them to play several matches of this new brawl. And so DJ Tyrant, who's one of the community guys, he casts some stuff. He does stuff for BlizzPro. He got articles and gameplay videos and stuff that I'll talk about and I'll link on our show notes later. And he said they got 2 mirror match games out of the 6 they played. And they've got gameplay videos, and one of them was like all thralls on this Sky Temple arena. So,
it's the Thrall Brawl. I like
the Thrall Brawl. So that's pretty cool. Like, I'm super excited to try this out. I think it's going to be super unique, and it's going to be a ton of fun, and there's going to be rewards.
Yes, the incentives are what it's all about for some people out there. I know that's the case for me in Hearthstone anyway. Apparently, if you participate in 3 brawls per week, you get to earn rewards and gold. The reward right now that they're showing is portraits for each week, and it's going to be unique to each week. They stress that that if you miss a week and aren't able to get a particular portrait you were looking for, that they're going to cycle through these so you can come back to them again, which is nice for people to catch up. Although kind of cuts into the exclusivity on some of those, which whatever. There's arguments either way on that one. But I don't know. They also emphasized in the video that the portraits are just the first iteration of rewards that might come down the line. So
Yeah.
I mean, we could see all kinds of different stuff later.
And one
I'd
of the
love to see skins, but I'm just
Oh
throwing it
yeah,
out there.
that'd be sweet. Like brawl skins.
Yeah.
One of the things they did mention is like a one of those weekly brawl quests. Besides the portraits, for playing 3 games, you get 1,000 gold.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that's cool. I really like that. Just another way to earn gold. Because
Is it 1,000 every week or?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, that's
And
not bad.
I really like that that's an extra way to get gold, because one of the things criticisms people sometimes level against heroes is it's expensive. It's expensive to like get everything. There's starting to be a lot of heroes now. Gold generation is slow. You got to get a stim pack to get a lot of gold, which in some ways is true. So whenever Blizzard adds in ways to play the game but allow you to get bigger gold rewards besides just the weekly quest stuff, I think that's a great step in the right direction.
I do too, and it was a business decision on Blizzard's part. You know what I mean? Like they're making a sacrifice to make sure that's the case. They probably would want you to buy the heroes with real money instead, but that they're giving you an avenue to skip one or two that you're really interested in and get them a little bit quicker is a business decision. And I agree with you. I think it's the right one.
Yeah. So lots of big potential for the brawl mode. I'm really excited to see what they've got. I'm really excited to see what kind of mutators we're going to see besides just having all of one type. I know,
Right.
like some of the interesting ones we could see, greatly reduced cooldowns for heroics or all basic abilities,
Or just no cooldowns.
or no cooldowns. That could totally be a thing. Or something like crazy mana regen, so you just can go nuts on that.
Yeah. And the fun part is, like, not a lot of people are going to take that sort of thing super seriously. I imagine some people are just going to get in there, do their 3 for the week, and get out, take the reward. But there's always that niche of people that, even in Hearthstone, even in the other games that do this, really do like take this seriously. So we're going to get some crazy videos of like, what's the min-maxed best comp for no cooldown mode, or
yeah.
double the health mode, or I mean, we're going to see some interesting stuff come out of this,
Yeah.
for sure.
I really hope that we get some sort of a crap. You know how you were thinking about something and then it just kind of slips away from you? That's what it just did.
We had a
I'm
question
sure
in
it was
chat.
awesome.
Masked16 asks, will we be able to earn experience and complete quests in Brawl? That's a good question.
I believe
I
the
know
answer is yes.
it stands to reason. In Hearthstone, they let you do it, so I don't see why not. So
Yeah, I believe the answer will be yes to that, because it will be a legit queuing mode. Like it'll
Right.
just be another stop at the top, just like Quick Match, Hero League, ranked AI, that type of thing. So any official queue so far has allowed you to get quests done.
And I mean, that's important too, because if this,
Oh, yeah.
especially if the Brawl's out and it's a quick one, and, say it's the all Sergeant Hammer one, and your quest log is, Specialist, StarCraft, and I mean, you could stack a few. Like, that's the obvious choice. Even the AI games would be faster than that. So,
Yeah.
something to think about.
I really like that they're adding a mode. I mean, Heroes is not, the games usually aren't super long in general. You're usually, low 20 minutes for an average game. But it's really cool that they're introducing like a bite-sized mode, because say compare it to Overwatch. You jump into Overwatch, you can play a few games of Overwatch in 15-20 minutes.
Right.
And so having that kind of mode in Heroes, the little bite-sized thing, like Hearthstone, Tavern Brawl, like just an Overwatch match where I can like, oh, okay, I've got 10, 15 minutes. I normally couldn't fit a regular game of Heroes in, even in that, but I could totally fit a Tavern Brawl in, or an
Right.
Arena Brawl, or Heroes Brawl.
Heroes Brawl. Yeah.
Like, yeah,
It's going to be tough to get used to.
I know. I keep saying it because it's based off of Tavern Brawl. It is.
Well, and there are the brawls in Overwatch as well, who also took the
that's
inspiration from Tavern Brawl. So I mean, it's just brawling all over the place over there at Blizzard. That's all they do.
Yeah,
just nonstop fight.
I mean, you can really tell recently all the Blizzard games are completely borrowing and like melding into each other.
Yeah,
because we see that a bunch in WoW right now with Diablo. Like, there's a lot of Diablo inspiration in this new expansion, and now we're starting to see it bleed over into these, like Overwatch, like Hearthstone. Your Tavern Brawl thing is kind of cool. We're gonna do that, and Heroes is like, yeah, you're right. That's a great idea. Let's do that too. So I really like it. You're getting the best of like all their genres turned into a game specific thing for your favorite version of that game. So that's really
exactly.
Cool.
And I mean, they're taking the good stuff too. Like if that were true and they were taking a bunch of weird things that I wasn't excited about, I'd be kind of weirded out by it. But I mean, I like Tavern Brawl and Hearthstone. I admittedly haven't done it much in Overwatch, but I'm excited for this. I think this has a place for me for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I will be in next week on the PTR testing this out, and I really hope because it's the PTR, they'll be cycling through several modes to try out instead of just
that would make sense,
like it will be on live.
That's how they did it in Overwatch as well when they were testing it. So
yeah, we'll have to do our post podcast games next week in the PTR for sure. That'll be a lot of fun. All right, guys. Well, we've talked about Heroes Brawl. Super excited about that. But now it's time to get to our Hero of the Week. And our Hero of the Week this week is Zarya. She's been through lots of kind of a roller coaster. I deemed this on Twitter a roller coaster of emotions while playing Zarya.
Yes.
Because there was the initial release and then the crazy buff and then a nerf again just like a day later. And like I said earlier on, I feel like she's in a pretty decent spot. She may need a few more tweaks here and there, but I feel like she's in a pretty decent spot. And so we're going to go over a build that I've kind of landed on. It's one of the more popular builds kind of going around now that everyone's had some time to feel her out and play around with her a bit. So we'll start off by going over her abilities, combat trait, and such. Her combat trait is energy. Every time Zarya's personal barrier or shield ally absorbs damage, her energy is increased by 1. Each point of energy increases Zarya's damage by 2%, and after 0.5 seconds, the energy decays now by 2.5 per second. What is your Q, Multi?
The Q is the particle grenade, your alt fire in Overwatch. It's where you, on an 8-second cooldown, launch a particle grenade that deals 64 plus 4% per level damage to enemies within the area and deals 50% damage to structures. Just to make sure it's not too oppressive there. And we should mention too, no mana. Her combat trait is the energy. That's her resource that you're trying to manage. So, I mean, when I say the particle grenades on an 8-second cooldown, that's the only thing holding you back from getting them off is 8 seconds.
Yeah, and
so
4 charges.
You get a couple charges. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and 4 charges. And the range on this thing is really big. But
notable.
Without any energy, it's not going to be doing much damage.
It doesn't do a lot of damage without energy, but what it does do is keep people off of the tributes in Cursed Hollow.
Yes.
All kinds of stuff that I think is going to be, at the end of the day, her strength is some of the zoning things she can do. And yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a lot of disruption. But yeah, it's a very good point. It's super amazing for interrupting channels on like tributes for Cursed Hollow, that type of thing. Her W is personal barrier. It is on a 10-second cooldown now, I believe. You gain a shield that absorbs 582.4 plus 4% per level damage for 3 seconds. And it's just your standard, I have a shield now.
Right.
Except this shield gives you energy, so you want people to hit this shield. as much as possible.
Yeah, but then it otherwise serves the purpose of having a shield. I mean, you get to absorb it a little.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it's extra health. It's pretty decent, but it's not one of the shields you want to just throw on for just making people not want to attack you. You want them to attack you while you have this shield on. And so we'll talk a little bit about the strategy of that later. What's her E?
E is kind of similar to the W in that it's a shield that gives you energy, but this one's for an ally. So on 12-second cooldown, Shield Ally is the name. That makes sense. You grant an allied hero a shield that absorbs 436 plus 4% per level damage for 3 seconds. And again, this does give you the energy charge as well, ramping up your damage. And again, this is exactly out of Overwatch. It's not the same numbers. It's not the same even really look or obviously feel. It's a totally different genre of game. But this is how she works in Overwatch. And I'm super impressed with how they made this work. At first I wasn't. Like I said last week, I was kind of worried about how she felt. But now that I've gotten to play her a little bit more, and now that she's been buffed up a little bit, Shield Ally is one of my favorite abilities for her in either game. I've always liked the tanky sort of off-tank characters that have some sort of supporty feel to them as well. I think Tyrael can sometimes have a similar feel in this game, and I'm just excited to see another one, for sure.
Yeah, no, they translated her kit from Overwatch very well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Her first ult is called Graviton Surge. It is on now a 100-second cooldown. And you launch a gravity bomb that detonates after 1 second and draws enemy heroes toward the center for 2.5 seconds. Now, this just draws enemies in. This doesn't actually silence or disable them, other than
so you
causing
can still
them not to move. You can still cast an attack and stuff while in this. This is basically just you're here, now you're getting sucked toward the middle type thing. It's not a mosh pit.
No, it's still pretty good though. I mean, in part because
it's pretty decent size though.
It's big, and unlike Mosh Pit, you can do it at a range. I mean, once you've shot it off, you can't really get it interrupted like Mosh Pit, So I mean, I've played around with it some, and I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Yeah. I like the other one better just because of the cooldown, but I don't hate it.
I feel Graviton Surge is definitely a little more situational, but we'll talk about that here shortly. And then what is her second ultimate?
All right, first of all, it's interesting that she has a second ultimate because, as you recall, with Tracer, both of these kits are trying to be as close of a port from Overwatch to Heroes as possible. And in Tracer's case, they just gave her the one Pulse Bomb ultimate, but then at 10 allowed you to augment it 3 different ways, which was a cool, interesting new way to do things. But this is further proof that when it comes to bringing Overwatch heroes into Heroes of the Storm, I think Blizzard's willing to kind of break their boundaries a little bit and come up with something new, which on my other show, The Cavalry, we've always kind of hypothesized of, would they just come up with different versions of the one, or would they come up with something new? And I mean, I've got to think that if we had made a guess, the opposite of sucking everyone in like Graviton does would be pushing everyone out, right? So they did it in the form of a second ultimate called Expulsion Zone, which does exactly, again, what the title says. On a 45-second cooldown, you launch a gravity bomb that instead, it deals some damage, 128, not too much, scaling 4%, but then creates an expulsion zone for 3.5 seconds. Enemies who enter the affected area are knocked back and have their movement speed reduced by 50% for 1 second. So, again, we kind of talked about some of the zoning capability. I got to admit, though, for being as excited for this ultimate as I am, I'm a little surprised it's kind of small. It's smaller than I thought it would be. Did you get that impression too?
Yeah, it doesn't quite cover the choke point on a lot of maps, but you can get pretty close to it. It is great disruption.
It's still really useful.
Yeah,
I don't mean to.
You have to be a little more specific on where you place it to get the most out of it. But we're on a 45-second cooldown compared to a 100-second cooldown.
That alone is too much of a gap to ignore, frankly.
That alone makes me pick Expulsion Zone over Graviton Surge a lot of the time, except for specific comps. and it
Yeah.
does damage, and the other one doesn't do
Which
damage.
which scales from your energy. So although it's not much, it's adding to your numbers. Which, I mean, we'll get into kind of her role a little bit, but she's more about churning out the numbers and disruption than she is actual tanking. So that's important to you.
Yeah,
So
it's very
yeah.
important. All right, so let's dive into our Zarya build. So, like Multi alluded to, she's not necessarily main tank material. She's lacking a lot of the CC that you would find in your traditional main tank. She can, or she has the potential to do quite a bit of damage. She's got a lot of supporty type things, but she doesn't have the peel really that's necessary for a main tank. And so a lot of times what I've kind of taken to doing is playing her in an off tank secondary bruiser type warrior kind of way. And that's, I think, where she really shines. And we'll talk a little bit about comps that she might be good in at the end, but that's kind of how we're going into this and how we're looking at this from a build perspective.
Yeah, well, and you can't really even to take away from her tanking ability even further. You can't quite as easily even do things like body block. I mean, you can technically body block with anybody, but in her case, like, to get the most out of her damage, if you're not laying into your auto attack, which, I mean, if you're trying to stagger step around and like stutter step and do some body blocking, you're just not getting the most out of your damage either. So it's not like Diablo or someone where you can just get your auto attacks off and dance around people. She's got a totally different fielder if you haven't played her yet, and some people I think are really going to jive with her playstyle. So
yeah, and unlike other Overwatch characters, which, as I say that, there's really only one other Overwatch character in the game right now.
So far,
it's Tracer. But
I'm
Tracer,
calling it. They're announcing one at BlizzCon. But anyway, go on.
No, I agree with you. We're gonna have a whole episode. We're gonna talk about that coming up soon. So be prepared. But with Tracer, as an Overwatch, they brought her in, and she could actually move while firing. And so, just based off of her, I kind of thought, I wonder if that's going to be the pattern with their Overwatch characters, if they're going to keep their kits kind of in line with that and allow the Overwatch characters to move while shooting, because that's kind of a part of Overwatch, right? And so it needs to be known, Zarya cannot move while shooting.
Right.
She does have a beam that can hit multiple things at a time, depending on how you position the beam. But she cannot move and shoot at the same time. So you just kind of have to get around that. In some ways, I feel like in some ways she would feel better. You'd have to do a lot more adjustment to her if you allowed her to move at like half speed or something while still firing. Kind of like almost a CG bruiser type person who's just this slow trotting, I'm going to, chase you down a little bit with this if my team can get in there with the stuns and the CCs and whatnot. But as of now, that is not how she works. So her positioning is key to try and hit the most people you can with that beam.
I do still kind of wish that they are going to do that at some point with the moving while firing, kind of like, Tychus's Q, for instance. I kind of still hope that they do something like that, even if they have to reduce the speed, just to kind of help her navigate around corners and stuff a little bit better. But, I mean, I will admit, that was one of my main complaints last week, as we recall, and since then, after playing her a bit more, the positioning is kind of fun. Like, finding the right spot to get the beam on maximum people while also, like, managing where your Q is going and stuff. Like, that's kind of fun. I've grown to like even the playstyle that she has now, so I don't hate it either way. But yeah, I'd be intrigued to see if they explore something like that.
Yeah, it adds another aspect in positioning wise. But so let's go ahead and jump into the build. Level 1, we're going with maximum charge, and so this build is all about getting the energy you need to do the damage you need to do. Because as we talked about earlier, your starting damage without energy is rubbish. It's minuscule and it's kind of tickly. Like no one's gonna take it's one of those things like if her damage was going to an interview and it showed up in jeans and a t-shirt
Oh yes.
at a high-end professional place, no one would take it seriously. That's kind of how she is at low energy. But if you get a bunch of energy, that means you do a ton of damage. People can't ignore you, and you're wearing your freaking, Armani suit.
Yeah. So and obviously they can't ignore you.
And you can't ignore that. So what maximum charge does is first it gives you an instant source of energy, because up until now, or just from her baseline kit, you can only gain energy by either absorbing damage from your shield or from the ally's shield that you give somebody. Now with maximum charge, regen globes will instantly grant you 20 energy. So it's great for laning. It helps you out a lot. And it's also a quest talent. If you spend 120 seconds at or above 50 energy, then you gain an additional 25 max energy. And that just ups that damage multiplier potential even more. So it's a very strong level 1, especially for what you want her to do. You want her to do damage. You want her to be that bruisery type role that people can't ignore. And then add on to that, okay, now I can grab globes and get instant energy to give myself a little bit of boost if my shields aren't getting hit, or I don't have an ally to throw my shield ally on. That just helps a lot as well.
Yeah. Another one I like in this tier is Demolitions Expert. It's another quest one. For every 5 enemy heroes hit by particle grenade, its recharge rate lowers by 0.25 seconds, up to 2 seconds. And then you get, it's not a ton, but it's noticeable. Once you've hit 40 enemy heroes, the radius is increased by 15%. I just wanted to shout it out because, I don't know, I liked it. I understand where we're going with this build on your maximum charge, and I mean, there are talents we're going to take later that make sense with it, but it's. I'm always excited to see a couple different quest talents available at one, and they're sticking with it for her.
Yep. So, our level 4, and this is going to be a little bit of a discussion because it's a very fluid talent tier, depending on the situation. And so my personal choice that I go most of the time in this tier is I Am Strongest, which your personal barrier absorbs an additional 145 plus 4% per level damage. Just makes that shield stronger, makes it last longer. Stronger shield means less damage to you, and stronger shield means more energy gained from the shield absorption if the shield gets fully damaged down. So overall, that's really good. Helps you stay alive, helps you generate more energy. Is there any standout on this that you like to pick?
The thing I like about I Am the Strongest, the one you just talked about, is that it's never really a wrong choice. I mean, you get more absorption, you get more energy, can't go wrong. But I feel like where we're going to see Zarya shine in this game, as well as where we see her shine in Overwatch, is through the shield ally and like having a plan and putting that on someone that can really benefit from him. And Give Me 20 is another quest. In this case, regeneration globes increase shield ally absorb amount by 15 up to 300 permanently. And then the reward for hitting that is, after collecting 20 regen globes, permanently reduce the cooldown of shield ally by 3 seconds, which is pretty significant because it's only 12, so cutting it down pretty good there. And I mean, it's shielding more. Also, if you did take our maximum charge from the first level, you're already knowing that you're on a map that you can kind of lane and get these health globes in the first place. So, I mean, now you've got double the reason to get it already at level 4, and I would think that this would be best used, again, if you had a plan. There's similarly speed barrier. Shield ally increases the allied hero's movement speed by 25% for the duration. Again, might fit you if you have a plan with someone. Like, say you're running with a Thrall, maybe, who just wants to have an extra chance at closing that gap to, get the wolf off and stop your opponent, that sort of thing. Again, I think between those two and whoever you're running with, whatever comp you're in, is going to be where we start to see her to shine, personally. Yeah. But we'll see as time goes on.
I feel like the level 4 is very much a compositional talent, because then you also have defensive shielding, which Upon expiration or breaking, personal barrier and allied shield reduce the damage of the next 2 hero basic attacks within 12 seconds for either Zarya or the person she shielded. So there's a lot of comps that could get a lot of value out too. So
it's like her version of block, which I like.
Yeah.
I also like that it's not just straight block. It's something that's dependent on her abilities, and you have to think about it a little bit more. That's cool.
Yeah. So I consider level 4 a very situational tier based upon, and then you take the talent based upon either the enemy team composition or the team composition you're in. If you have, someone, you're in kind of like a diving composition, then maybe Give Me 20 is going to be more useful because you're going to want the person who's diving in to have a stronger shield when they go in. If you're in a spot where you need to be a front line or you need to be kind of in people's face, I Am the Strongest is probably good. If you're up against a team that has very strong auto attack, then defensive shielding could be very good. So there's a lot of situational type things, and you just kind of change the build based upon whatever the situation you're in is. For level 7, we are going to go with Hit Me.
Hit me.
Hit me. And so this is something that after she got mega buffed, I wasn't using, but is a little more prevalent now, or a little more relevant now, I should say. What Hit Me does is damage absorbed by Zarya's shields contribute 20% more energy. This is good because once you finish your maximum charge, you'll have a higher energy cap. So if your shields are absorbing 20% more energy, it'll be easier to hit that new higher cap. It'll be easier while you're completing the quest with Hit Me because you'll be getting more energy as a baseline from your shields, which will help you stay above that 50 energy for that 120 seconds that you need to complete that quest. And this is one of the things, one of the reasons I think her win rate's so high, and one of the things that people are starting to figure out, but they had a lot of trouble with initially. Zarya is completely shield dependent on her energy. If you don't attack her while her shields are up, she gets no energy. So I've started to see quite a bit more, especially in the higher leagues. You have to be much more careful, much more deliberate when using your shield, because people actually stop attacking you while your shield is up. Wait for it to go down, because it's just 3 seconds. And if she doesn't have hardly any energy, she's not hurting you that much anyways. Wait for the shield to expire and then just keep attacking her. And she's got no shield anymore. She's got no way to generate energy. And she's probably not going to win the trade. And so Hit Me allows you to take less shield damage and still get up that energy you need to be dangerous.
Yeah, makes sense for sure. I think she gets a lot of her just energy from using her shield ally anyway, because that's one where you're typically trying to get something out of that, absorb some damage, and just sort of plan for it. And so, at least in the games I've played, I've found that to be the better generator anyway, unless you just have that enemy team that just doesn't get the whole shielding thing and attacks you anyway, which is super fun because then you can just do whatever you want. But yeah, I think that, because they'll never take away how shield ally works, and again, just talking up shield ally as not only a generator of your own damage but helping out your allies. I don't know where I'm going with that, but I like it.
Yeah. The other one that I have played around with some is Explosive Barrier. And this is kind of a cool thing, especially if you're not having any problem generating energy. Upon expiration or breaking, Personal Barrier explodes, doing 104 plus 4% per level damage to nearby enemies. At high energy levels, this is actually a pretty dang big chunk of damage. Like, you can use this for wave clear as well.
Oh yeah,
because it's a decent radius around her, and you can usually fit an entire minion wave in the radius for the explosion. So that is an alternative if you're not having trouble generating energy, or you don't feel like you're going to have trouble doing it, or if you know you're going to be relegated to a lane, or you have to be the solo laner early on, then you're getting energy from those regen globes from maximum charge, and then that can kind of build into explosive barrier a little bit as well. So just
And
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and speaking of wave clear, just in general, I mean, we're only talking about any sort of damage that she takes gives you energy. So that includes the wave. I mean, she's one that you can definitely put your shield on and step into the wave and let them auto attack you a little bit. It doesn't give you a ton, but I mean, you're pushing your wave a little bit better because you're just positioning them further across the lane. But yeah, I mean, you could be charging up things like that explosive barrier, getting your own damage up a little bit. It's not a huge thing, but it's something to think about.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So we talked a little bit about it. What are we going to choose for our level 10 ult?
Oh, we're going to go with typically Expulsion Zone for aforementioned reasons. But I mean, again, shout out to Graviton Surge as the true ultimate, if you will, from Overwatch, because I do think it can be useful. I think they could tweak it around a little bit. I don't know how. Maybe make it last a little bit longer or something. I'm not sure, but just for the sake of right now, the cooldown on Expulsion Zone is just. I don't want to say too short because I think they're going to probably make it bigger, but it's too good now to pass up. So Expulsion Zone.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's what I'll go with, unless my team comp is built around a Wombo combo of some sort with a lot of really strong AoE. Expulsion Zone is almost always the better move. Because like you mentioned, it's on a super short cooldown. It actually does damage. It stays for 3.5 seconds versus 2.5 seconds. You can use it to basically clog up a choke point and completely pull somebody away. You can use it to trap somebody between you and another person.
Right.
If you wanted to. Or between the zone and you if you're a big tankier character. Because you're Zarya. So be up in their face, throw the expulsion zone on the other side of them. They hit the expulsion zone, they're taking damage, they're getting slowed, they come to you, hopefully you've got some energy going from a team fight or something, and then you're just, willing away at them with your auto attack. The rest of your team comes in. It's a kill. So I feel like expulsion zone is just more useful in a bigger variety of situations right now, especially with the cooldown.
Yeah, I agree.
So level 13 multi, what are we thinking?
13, we are going with endurance training. And again, we're keeping with sort of an energy theme on these. So while at or above 75 energy, Zarya gains resistant, reducing all damage taken by 25%. And as you'll recall, going back up our tier, we've got, the damage she's absorbing is giving her more energy. Probably by now, I would hope you've got your extra 25 maximum energy cap. Mm-hmm. So these things all build on each other and hopefully give you some good uptime on resistant, which sort of, because again, level 13 is that time of the game where it's been going on for a little bit. You got a kind of a feel for it. Your opponents might think that you're a little squishy for a tank, which is possibly true. But if you're really managing this well, I would think even just a little bit, 25% damage reduction, is going to maybe start to bring her into more of that tanky role. Like you can get more aggressive and get more of possibly your own shielding up with personal barrier, So yep. I although I haven't had the chance to try this talent out yet myself, it makes sense, especially with what we've been doing so far.
Yeah, and this is my main go-to at this point because you probably, like you said, you probably have the extra energy at this point. You've got several ways you can get energy. Your maximum energy cap is now higher. It's 125 instead of just 100.
Yeah.
And so you can get the 75 becomes only the halfway point for energy now, which is really not that hard to get to usually at that point in the game. I know I've had some buddies tell me that sometimes Pain is Temporary is a fun talent to go to as well. And that's an activatable where you activate to consume all energy and gain a shield that absorbs 0.5% of Zarya's max health per energy consumed and lasts for 3 seconds. And
And
so
she may only have one personal shield active on herself at a time. So you have to stagger it with her W then?
yeah,
Okay.
you could totally stagger that with their W and get 6 seconds of crazy shielding out of it.
Yeah,
And
there's a place for that. Although
yeah,
you do consume the energy, so you're trading the
see,
damage for
yeah,
it.
and that's kind of the thing, right? That's almost like a last stand type thing, or something to discourage or make yourself a target, and then as you're getting close to low health, hopefully you're fairly high energy, bam, you hit that. You've got this massive shield again, and then you've got possibly another shield on yourself right afterwards. So it's
Right.
it's an option. It's an option. I would say normally endurance training is going to be more useful in more situations just because it's kind of a passive. But there's some other ones that have their place.
Yeah.
Level 16, and this one is really cool. We're going to go with Born in Battle. And while at or above 75 energy again, so once you hit 75 energy, not only will you get endurance training, which is 25% damage reduction, you're also going to get Zarius cooldowns regenerating faster.
Mm-hmm.
Which is amazing because, let's be honest, other than having 4 charges on her grenade, she doesn't have the shortest cooldowns in the world. She's got a 10-second personal shield, a 12-second ally shield, and then 8 seconds between grenade recharge refreshes, even though she's got 4 of those. And
Short cooldown on the ultimate if you went expulsion zone.
Yeah.
As heroics go, but
yeah,
you know.
as heroics go. But I mean, overall, fairly long cooldowns across the entire kit. And so having this and being up at 75 energy and getting that extra cooldown reduction, this just means more shields on allies, more shields on yourself, and because shields generate your energy, that means more energy too.
Yep.
And that allows
Which keeps
you to keep,
at and above 75,
to keep you
right?
at or above 75 so that your cooldowns keep regenerating faster and you keep that 25% resistance. So it's just all these energy type talents kind of working in synergy at this point to really make you a crazy bruiser.
Yeah, and this is, we try to point out sometimes where a big power spike is in these heroes, just for people that are maybe even playing against her to look for what levels to watch out for. If you've gone this far with all this energy stuff, there's your answer. 16.
Yep. Lots of spikes at 16. One other one that is a fairly popular pick, depending on your team comp, is Gain Train. And Gain Train shield ally now grants an untalented shield to a nearby ally upon impact. So basically 2 ally shields. Which, if again you're in some sort of a dive comp, or maybe you're in like a melee heavy comp or something like that, something like Gain Train could get a lot of mileage, a lot of good use out of it, because you're getting it's just more shields for free, and that keeps people alive, and that's never a bad thing.
But I don't care about those other people. I want to do the damage.
Yeah, exactly. one other one to kind of talk about a little bit, because I know it had a really it was a really hype thing, but if you go to Hot Slogs and check like talent pick rate, its pick rate is extremely low, and that's Cleansing Shield. That allows shield ally to remove all disabling effects. It's kind of like a poor man's cleanse, because you can't pre-cleanse, and it doesn't grant unstoppable. It just removes the disabling effects. And so most people seem to have kind of veered away from that and have gone toward Born in Battle or Gain Train, just because of how strong those talents are. But if for some reason you were lacking a healer in like a quick match game or something, or your healer didn't pick Cleanse for some reason, or maybe you've got an Ariel who doesn't have Cleanse, and you're up against a CC heavy team or a team that you need to get rid of those disables quickly, or it could put you in a really bad spot, it's definitely an option that you have. Just know you're giving up a lot of power to do that at the same time.
Power or survivability for your targets
Power or
as well. So
Yep.
yeah.
All right.
And you'd have to be just smart enough about CCs to be able to pull that sort of thing off. So it's
you'd have to be very very
cognizant of the timing.
Cognizant of the timing and what's going on, and keeping track of your teammates too, because you become much more of a pseudo support at that point.
Is it weird that we both jumped for the word cognizant? I mean, we could have said aware, or I mean, there are other fewer syllable words.
It's such a fancy word, though.
I know, I like it. It's got a Z in it, dude.
Yeah, there's not a lot of words.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
That's true. I like it.
Why do you think we go by Zords?
Yeah.
Anyway, move on.
No, that's okay. Good for you. I'm glad you pointed that out. Well done.
I thought it was important.
Yeah. So level 20 multi. What are we looking at for our final talent tier here?
20 is kind of an interesting tier on her, but we're going with Unyielding Defender. It's her version of Rewind. Essentially, you activate it to reset the cooldown of Personal Barrier and Shield Ally. So, I mean, this all ties into everything we've been talking about. She's already ideally got shorter cooldowns because you're running Born in Battle, you're staying above 75, you're getting a ton of that stuff going. But here's another way to bring up your shields again one more time, maybe even to help you ramp up the initial energy and then start churning through Born in Battle and some of the other talents.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that being useful. But again, I mean, it's got all the hallmarks of what we've been talking about. Survivability for both you and your allies, and damage. So, yeah. I mean, like...
Because survivability is damage for Zarya.
True. And, I mean, anyone... Technically, like if you're dead, you don't do a ton of damage. So yeah, I like it.
You do not do a ton of damage if you're dead. You heard it here, folks. You don't do damage if you're dead.
No, sometimes you can go around the map and do Leoric things, but whatever.
Or arterial things.
Yo, there you go. You can do damage.
That's true. Okay.
We take it back.
Take it back. So
Justice has been served.
Someone's going to call us out on that if we didn't.
Oh, they would. But anyway, on this tier, I don't know. I like that one well enough to just kind of say it's the go-to. I did play around with Grenadier though, which is kind of fun. Just all particle grenade charges are returned at once, so you don't really ever have downtime.
How does that work? So is it one cooldown of 8 seconds returns all grenade charges you're missing? Is that how it works?
I actually didn't watch it, so I'd have to go back and look. But my experience with it was just Q all the time, never worrying about any downtime.
Pretty much sounds like the way it works then.
Yeah. If it doesn't work exactly that way, then yeah. I mean, I'm sure they're still charging, but you know what I mean.
Sure. One thing. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just saying I like spamming stuff, so it's fun.
Yeah. If you like spamming stuff, then that does seem like you could spam a lot of stuff. I have tried Clear Out once or twice. And that increases Expulsion Zone's radius, and Zarya's maximum energy temporarily increases by 10 per enemy hero hit with Expulsion Zone for 10 seconds. So I could totally see this having its uses on any map that has like really good choke points, or if you wanted to get the wider area and actually take out an entire choke area rather than just a portion of it and kind of make people like tiptoe around it. Extra energy, like if you get a really good one, that's a lot of extra damage. You hit 3-4 of them, 30, 40 extra energy for 10 seconds.
Right.
That's pretty huge, especially if it pushes you above that 75 point.
True.
Too. So I mean, there totally could be situations you could use that on a per map basis. But Unyielding Defender, I've found is a pretty good baseline for when I want to use her. Just having that shield ally and the personal barrier back instantly right after I use them. It's just super strong, and it's only on a 45-second cooldown.
Yeah, which is not bad. And you could presumably, like, if you'd taken Pain is Temporary, for instance, I mean, you could ramp up your energy, with your shield, pop that, get 3 more seconds of shielding, reset the shield, which gets you more shielding, and then charges it back up again, and you could get some serious self shield uptime in that. So
Yeah, I feel
yeah,
I feel like that's definitely a clear standout in that tier for sure. So that is our Zarya
yes,
build. Lot of stuff you can do with her. A lot of potential ways you can build her based on team comps and such. So I thought as we're wrapping up, we can talk a little bit about what comps we kind of feel she works well in. Like I said, I feel like she's works best as a second warrior
right.
for more of a pure tank like a Johanna, like an ETC, like a Muradin, as she doesn't have the peel that they have. She can work extremely well, as I've kind of mentioned through in dive comps. Greymane, Kerrigan,
Mm-hmm.
any or melee assassins, anybody who's going to get in and get in somebody's face, that shield ally is going to be a huge help for those dive type comps. She's just really good as a front line as well. Like I said, positioning wise, if you use her laser right, you can hit multiple people with it. You want to be kind of in the middle of the action at all times because there's a lot more chance for your shield to get hit and give you the energy you need if that's going on, rather than if you're just trying to one-on-one somebody who can just stop attacking you while your shield's up and deny you that energy. Making sure you always have your shield ally out when you can, because even though that will either discourage someone from attacking them because they don't want to give you energy, or it just helps them out if they're being attacked and you get energy from it. So it's a win-win situation either way.
Yeah, shield ally is kind of awkward in the sense that, I mean, I've been talking it up this whole time in an ability that I genuinely enjoy, just to have that supporty feel with what you're doing. But at the same time, I do find myself saving it too much for those moments in which they really need it, and not maybe using it to absorb just sideways damage that isn't going to kill the target, but helps my damage overall in the game, that sort of thing. I think that's what I need to work on, is balancing that out some more. So luckily, I had a game where someone was playing Alarak and just overextending like crazy, and he was an easy one to put it on because 3 or 4 people would collapse on him all the time. But anyway, so yeah, that's an interesting ability to work out. But I agree with you in terms of the comps that she would fit in. The other thing too, you mentioned some of those other tanks that she would work well along with. All true, but one nice thing about some of these bruisers sometimes is that sometimes if they work in concert with another bruiser or someone like that, the two of you together can kind of be a tank while also doing a lot of damage. I'm thinking like maybe Arthas. He's got some peel with the Howling Blast and everything,
Sure.
right? So there's some synergy there that you could work out, I would think, just as an example. But otherwise, yeah, I totally agree. I definitely think she's got a place in the dive comps. And now that I finally have gotten to play her some more and she got this tiny buff, I think she's got a place in general. I hope they keep her the way she is, or similar.
And when you say tiny buff, you mean fairly large
significant buff.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
One other thing that you have to kind of get in the mindset of Zarya, and Artanis players will kind of understand this. She's very much an all-in character, and this is a strength because of all the talents and stuff she can do, but it's also a very big weakness because she has very little mobility and basically no escapes. All you can really do is walk away. You've got your shield and stuff, but if you're running away, you're not damaging the people, you're not using your energy, it's decaying. The thing with her is if you engage and you're by yourself, or you're far away from a fort or far away from some kind of thing you can retreat to easily, you're pretty much all in. Kind of like Artanis. Artanis is a very all-in character. He doesn't have hardly anything in the way of getting away unless you like W mini dash to a minion that's above the person or something like that. It's very much an all in, and so that's kind of the mentality you need to have with her, because if you run and you don't have any sort of structure or a bunch of friends close, you're probably going to die.
Right. And not only that, I mean, yeah, on both characters, the best way to get the most out of their damage, even survivability and all that, is to make use of their shields, you know? I mean, if you're not on Zarya kind of using these to intelligently overextend some to take some damage and then get your own damage out, you're kind of doing it wrong. I think that's where she lands. And yes, kind of like you said, it's usually better to be laning with somebody just so that, I mean, you can use one of your abilities, the Shield Ally.
I know. If you're solo laning, you literally can't use one of your 3 abilities.
Right. So she's an obvious choice to match up with someone there. Mm-hmm. Preferably, speaking on that too, I found that if you pick someone that doesn't have the greatest lane clear, it's pretty cool because you have at least okay wave clear, especially if you're
you can hit
getting some left click time in
with your auto.
Yeah. So she's good to balance out with someone that just doesn't have the best, in my opinion. I mean, obviously you can over push it with someone who does and really push your lane, but for like early game, we're just hanging out, getting your regen globes and all that. I've found some success balancing it out with someone like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
but
guys,
at least with someone. I mean,
yes.
You could solo lane with her, but I don't recommend it for
I would recommend just her kit is definitely lends itself more to a duo lane. If you can make it work, for sure. And
you have someone there to bail you out if you get ganked, because like you just said, she's gankable. That's for sure.
Oh, yes.
Get a good wraparound on her, and good night.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, that is our Zarya overview. Hopefully you learned some stuff. So if you've got her, or if you don't, grab her. Try the build. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your gameplay experience with her. Any strategies you might have that we didn't cover. We definitely always love to hear those. And so Multi will let you know how to do that at the end of the show. But as we wrap up, we'll kind of switch into our community content shout out. I kind of alluded to this earlier on, but I'm shouting out the Blizz Pro Heroes Brawl interview and gameplay videos done by DJ Tyrant. I'll have links to those in the show notes at lordsofthestorm.libsyn.com. That's where the show notes are every week. For the live chat, I'm linking both the gameplay videos and the interview if you have not seen them yet. So yeah, some really
very cool,
really good stuff. Like the interview was with Claudio. He was the guy we had on here not just a few episodes ago.
Yeah, not too long ago.
Yeah, not too long ago. One of
the Ariel announcement.
Yeah, one of the Heroes producers, and just a super sharp guy. A lot of good stuff in the interview, so definitely check that out in those gameplay videos if you want to kind of see how Arena Brawl mode works.
Well, it's so cool that Jimmy got to do this as well.
Oh yeah, like who wouldn't want to go to Blizzard and test out something that no one's seen yet?
Right. Yeah, I saw him post a picture of just him by the statue in front, and I was drooling. I was like, I want to be this guy.
I need to go there and stand in front of the statue and get my picture taken.
Yes,
that
indeed.
would be fun.
One more quick shout out. This is something it's been going on in our chat here a little bit here on Twitch. But did you notice how in the trailer about the Heroes Brawl, the very first piece of artwork with Diablo and Murky?
Yes.
Did you notice how, I know you mentioned this on Twitter too.
I did.
And it was funny because I was thinking the same thing, but yeah, the first shot is of Diablo being hit by a fish by Murky.
Mm-hmm.
And just to kind of shout out to one of our old community contents, we had a piece of artwork sent in way back when, I don't know how long ago it was now, but there was an art contest that Blizzard did where they wanted you to depict more than one hero from different IPs within the Blizzard universe battling it out. And I had requested that we have Murky beating the crap out of Diablo. And then someone in chat was asking about the painting behind me, the poster. We've got back here the exact one that was sent in, framed on my wall. It's by our other friend named Jimmy, we were just talking about it, Jimmy. This is a separate Jimmy. Sent it in, and framed it up right away. Which, by the way, was super awkward going to the framing store to frame this thing up because they were like, "Oh, what's this?" And I said, it's a fish guy punching the devil." That's all I had. That's all I had. So for those of you watching, that's the guy right behind me.
Yep. That's awesome. Yes, Jimmy does amazing artwork.
My point is, he totally inspired that initial.
That's how I feel.
No question.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Multi, we had one quick listener question, so you want to get to that before we wrap up?
Yes, so building off of Brawl yet again, we've got Freakazoid writing in once more, saying, wow, excited for the Brawl. My question is, do you think Hero League will suffer participation numbers once the Brawl mode comes out? Will it, even when it's out after a while? And we have some notes from Gizmo on this one, too. I guess we can cover those. But my take, first of all, is just that, no, not necessarily. Like I kind of mentioned earlier, I think that people are going to handle this much like they do the Tavern Brawl in Hearthstone, and that you'll get in there, get your rewards, and get out. I could see myself playing it a little bit more than I do the Hearthstone one, though. So I guess in a sense that's time that I'm not playing Hero League. But in general, I don't see it being such a huge deal. And it is true, once it's been going for a while, it'll become even less of a deal because people will kind of get the rhythm of it, understand it, the novelty will wear off a little bit, and I think there'll be even more in it for specific, rewards and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I mean, every now and then they might come out with one that's just so cool and gets all the headlines that you just have to do it. That happens in Hearthstone too. I'm thinking of like the Pick 2 and Pick 3, the co-op ones. Mm-hmm, when they dropped that co-op one for the first time, super excited. Like a ton of people were playing a bunch of games like with their friends and having a good time with it. So I anticipate that as well, like an ebb and flow based on what they release. So anyway, how about you, TBK? What do you think?
I think it might a little bit. I think it'll be one of those things where, like, the beginning of the week when it first releases, you'll see the big influx of people jumping in to play it. And then after a day or two, it'll kind of level off a bit. So I don't think it'll have, honestly, a huge impact. Also, I think from what they were saying, the point of most of these Brawl games is to be very short spurts of play. And so I don't think because of the goal of short spurts of play that it'll really take away from the main queue. And these aren't ever meant to really replace the main queue anyways. This is just kind of a side. Here's a fun mode that might be fun for a few times, but it's not meant to necessarily keep your attention long term, which is why they're only leaving them in 1 week at a time and then kind of constantly rotating so that the novelty doesn't wear off, basically. So I don't think it'll be a huge deal. I think there'll be a lot of people playing everything. And as we mentioned before, I'm really hoping one of the things at BlizzCon we'll see a lot more marketing for Heroes, because Heroes is honestly in a really good spot now. It's got a lot of really cool content. This is just another cool thing that you can jump in, pick up, and play, not have to put a ton of time into necessarily learning stuff, have a lot of fun in 5 or 10 minutes per game. And if you lose, it was 5 or 10 minutes, no big deal.
Right.
You probably had fun. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, makes sense. And then should we go with Gizmo's answer since he's not here?
I suppose.
I suppose.
So if we don't.
He's in the chat, which is funny. I'm guessing he's like on his phone, hunkered underneath a desk, or maybe floating on the desk.
Maybe floating on a desk.
I'm not sure which.
Greg, just so you know, we hope you're not floating on a desk.
Yeah, that would be.
If you are, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
But I hope you aren't.
No, definitely not. And I hope that everyone's doing well over there on the East Coast. But anyway, so Gizmo says there isn't a ton of info out there yet on exactly how these will work, but from what it sounds like, they'll be the same game type throughout the week. with maybe some slight variations. So in short, no, I don't think it will have an impact on participation numbers because people will play this mode to get their gold/portrait and as a break from the stresses of Hero League or even Quick Match. It's just a fun thing to do on the side and earn a little gold, but maybe too repetitive throughout the week to spend significant time in, which is a good point too. That's kind of one of the things that keeps me out of sometimes even the most fun Hearthstone ones is even if I had a great time, like at the end of the day, I'm still working on something toward the ladder, right? So
Yeah.
I just jumped there instead.
Yep.
And that's more close to the true game, more in line with what I see in esports and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm with Gizmo and all that. And he reiterated some of the points we did as well. So
yeah, for sure. Well, great question. And I think that's going to pretty much wrap it up for the podcast portion of the show. We will be doing a quick match to kind of show off Zarya and the build we talked about real fast after the podcast. But thank you guys for joining and listening, and hope you learned some stuff. And Multi, why don't you tell everybody where they can reach us outside of the show?
Well, you can reach us in-game by typing /join LOTS, especially if you want to get in on that match we're about to have here. Or we have a Discord channel, which is, sticky at the top of our Twitter. It's in the show notes all over the place. That's a chat service where you can get in there and chat with us about the game and other Blizzard games and just junk. Also, we've got our Twitter and Twitch at Lords of the Storm. Twitch, by the way, is live Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Central at twitch.tv/Lords of the Storm. And we've got a Facebook page, facebook.com/Lords of the Storm podcast. You can email us feedback or questions at lordsofthestorm@outlook.com. And if you want, you can also leave us feedback on, iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play. 5-star ones are nice. Positive reviews are always good, but we'll take whatever you can throw at us. And of course, if you really want to throw stuff at us, that was a terrible segue. we really do. It was. I apologize, because it undermines what the patrons at our Patreon are doing for us. We appreciate everything you guys are able to do in terms of contributing to the show, helping support us, doing what we do, and that's at patreon.com/Lords of the Storm.
Cool. You can also find us individually. You can find good old Gizmo, who's not here and probably putting his scuba stuff to good use right now.
Right.
At Gizmozord on Twitter and twitch.tv/Gizmozord, and occasionally on Convert to Raid Presents, the big show about all things Blizzard, but mostly WoW right now. See, I got that right. You can find me on Twitter at TBKZord and on twitch.tv/TBKZord, where I normally stream Chair League games. I do casting for those, usually Monday nights, sometimes other times during the week. Usually just watch my Twitter for that. But that's always a ton of fun. If you're involved in Chair League or you have a team or something and you play on a Monday and want me to cast a game, I'd absolutely love to. Just shoot me an email or a request for that. But otherwise, stop by or get involved in Chair League. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah.
What about you, Multi?
I'm on Twitter at Multizord, and I'm also on that other show I alluded to earlier called The Cavalry. We didn't think we were going to have one this week, but I just did a snap one earlier today, actually right before we recorded this. I finished up with our guest, Totemly Drunk, who's in CTR, and also, he's got his own Overwatch podcast, Heroes Never Die, if you guys want to check that one out as well. But ours is on Twitter at The Cavalry Show.
Awesome. I want to do just a special shout out, special thanks to our patron producer, Ouroboros for helping support the show. That's it for us tonight, guys. Thank you so much for joining. Again, if you're in the live chat, stick around. We are going to be doing a Zarya quick match after this, but until then, we will see you next week.
Did you thank Ouroboros, though?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay. Man, I'm blanking.
You weren't listening.
Well, thank you. You're right. I was looking at chat. I want to thank him, though. Thank you, Ouroboros.
I feel kind of neglected.
It's all good.
Thanks.
Hopefully.
Thanks for that. Bye, guys.
Yep. See you.
I'm glad you guys don't neglect me. All right. Sweet.